3, 2, 1. Right here. 4 tires of fuel.
Ride 111.
Outside.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Forward Fuel Podcast, episode 15. Can't believe it's already been 15 episodes of the Forward Fuel Podcast. We've got some regulars back, and we've got someone that has been gone for a while. Wes finally is back. He's
not dead.
Wes,
very much
welcome
alive.
back.
Hey, we're glad to be back. We're live and living well. Just thank goodness to have a little bit of a break. So we're ready to get back into the Foreign Fuel Podcast.
He's even dressed up. He's even dressed up
after work. I'd consider it one of the top 3 greatest comebacks in sports history. You can check my Twitter for that. I did tweet about that earlier. Yeah, I consider this a sport, so you can. If it's not Jennings or McGrady, you know who to look to.
Well, you know what Brad Keselowski would say, it's an entertainment podcast, not a fair podcast. So,
hey, I'm about entertainment. Last name's Riddle. I'm a joke, anyways.
Whoa,
guys!
Hey, you said it. We didn't. We did not say it.
Good way.
Well, that's why Wes hasn't been on the last. I don't know, it was probably like 4 or 5 now, just because it is an entertainment podcast. It isn't a fair podcast, so Wes did not make it. It's got a bunch of DNQs for the podcast.
Yeah, they're calling me Joe Nemechek from like 2011. I just DNQ'd every week.
And, or
DNF'd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think we've had somebody start the podcast and not finish. So we got to keep it that way.
No, remember the first one? I kept lagging out or whatever.
That was right. You kept getting booted out. I was
like, screw it. I'm done. We parked and started.
Well, you did start, and that does count. You 15 for 15 now.
Yeah.
And anything new, Michigan State? Any news coming out?
Nah, I'm just I just found out we're probably gonna go 1-9 or whatever in the Big Ten for football. So, hopefully that one win comes against Rutgers.
And that one win is not coming against Rutgers.
If it ain't coming against them, then we're not winning. It's wrong. We're because look at the schedule. Maybe Nebraska, shoot, but this might be the year where they finally go off with what's his face, Scott Frost, or the heck his name is over there, but. Oh, yeah. Also, since I feel like this shout-out is long overdue, shout-out to Dom's dad because he's been watching every stream.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the first one to finally think about Wes dying. So, shout-out to Mr. Caps for that one.
Yeah, he was very concerned about Wes.
Hey, I appreciate the concern. Hey, look at me now. I'm doing good.
And we got Caden back again. He's been working hard. We heard you were at Hickory a few times this week. Working with the super late models?
Yeah, went there Wednesday on a test, Friday and Saturday for practice in the race with the late model guys. Sammy was driving for us.
How was the crowd out there?
It's all right. By my guess, it'd probably be like 200 people. There was not a lot of people there. And on, I want to say Monday night, the Governor Roy Cooper sent out I don't know if you want to call it an email or notice, whatever. He sent out something to all the tracks basically saying no crowds for the rest of the year. So, yeah. The series we run in is the Cars Tour.
Mm-hmm.
So, Cars Tour, I don't know if they had any races scheduled because I never really kept up with that, honestly. But they're probably not coming back to North Carolina for the rest of the year at least.
Yeah, and do you think that'll have any implications on the Charlotte Roval when it comes to having fans, or do you think they may be able to get an exception?
I don't think they'll have fans. If Cooper sent that out to the short tracks, I highly doubt that Charlotte will have any fans.
Yeah, so now the only tracks right now that are confirmed to have fans, Daytona the rest of the regular season, because Michigan's running without fans and Dover is also running without fans. But as we've seen, Florida has really the least amount of precautions when it comes to everything. So
Yeah, in Texas,
they kind of just don't care that much.
They're
Where
like,
in New Jersey
die,
you can't
die.
go. Where in New Jersey you can't go to a restaurant and eat inside. So,
Oh, yikes.
but that was a nice thing. We'll go into New Hampshire here. I went to the track, went to the race on Sunday, and I have to say it was one of the better races I've been to. I was like shocked to see New Hampshire provide a good race. The racing there was really good. It was almost like, a good short track race. Even the drivers were saying it. I think Denny Hamlin during the race was just like, this is amazing. Like, this is great short track racing. Even like while Keselowski passed him, like he was having fun with it. He wasn't upset. Like, Keselowski beat him. Keselowski just had the better long run car. And, New Hampshire, I feel like gets such a bad wrath, throughout fans. They're like, oh, New Hampshire, this track sucks. And New Hampshire lost its second date in 2018. We're moving it from the playoffs for the Charlotte Roval. And now New Hampshire, ever since then, has provided good finishes. You can't say anything about the racing, but I think a lot of it has to do with the package they bring. And this year they brought the high horsepower package, and it provided good racing. And I just don't understand why NASCAR doesn't take that and just, everywhere else. High horsepower is meant for the Cup Series. But no, we're running low horsepower where you could basically full throttle around the whole racetrack, and in every race comes a plate track. Just like how Michigan's going to be. It's just going to be a plate track. It's going to be, who can maneuver the air the best. And I think they're running the huge spoilers this week. So even with that, nobody's going to pass. So, but enough on the package. The track, I'd say there was less to do than there was at the All-Star race, at least with like souvenirs and stuff. There was only one souvenir trailer there. It was only Chase Elliott's souvenir trailer. It wasn't even Jimmy Johnson's. They had Jimmy Johnson's at the All-Star race. So it was just Chase Elliott's. And then you had like the track had their own like souvenir trailers, and they had like a multitude of drivers inside like theirs. But it was like you only get like one choice in a Hamlin, not even a Hamlin shirt. There wasn't even a Hamlin shirt. It was like Blaney, Bubba. There was a lot of Bubba stuff, and I will say there was more variety on food there. I actually did get food when I was there. I got a pulled pork sandwich.
Oh, that sounds so good.
It was $10. It definitely wasn't a $10 sandwich, but I'd say for $10, it was better than like your typical like chicken tenders and fries. It was a good hearty pulled pork sandwich, and they like gave you like some Sweet Ray's barbecue sauce with it. So I'd say it was well worth it. I think Anthony, one of my friends we went with, he spent like $17 on a burger, fries, and a drink. It was $17.
That's
Sounds like Five Guys. Shoot.
At least Five Guys, you get a quality burger
Yeah,
and a lot
that's
of
true.
fries.
Yeah,
And
Five
they fill
Guys.
your bag with fries.
Dude, oh my god! Every time I go to Five Guys over there, they put so many fries in the bag, and by the time I get home, it's only like a 5-minute drive from home from Five Guys, and the bag's just soaked when I get home.
Man.
The whole bottom of the bag's just so greasy. But hey, fries are good, and the burger's good. I can get a double. You can get 2 patties for like all that stuff for like $13 to $15. So
All I'm saying is just wait for the Five Guys edition of the Four and Fuel podcast. Oh my gosh, just wait! It's gonna be a good one.
We're gonna like when we meet up again, we're gonna have to record an episode in the Five Guys. We'll like take you, like we're gonna walk in
food
and
review.
just do some crazy episode, just completely at it. We're gonna walk in, we're gonna
Just some
video our
fun.
orders. We're gonna video our order, like say our order, and then just have like interviews and stuff, and be like, how was that burger? Were you able to? How was the run today?
We're gonna be one of those cheesy YouTubers like, what is up, guys? The decap here.
We'll be like Barstool, dude. Like, oh, all right,
Pizza
we're gonna
review.
Go to every Five Guys ever to review their burger.
One bite, everybody knows the rules.
And then we'll get big enough, and we'll get Boyer. We'll get Boyer on the episode. One of the five.
We'll take him to. We'll do a podcast where we go to every 5 guys in the nation and take Boyer with us. That's the only driver every single week. Yeah, we got Clint Boyer back for episode 98. Over and over. Just
Hopefully,
Boyer
Clint,
every week.
You know, hopefully Clint's listening. I hope Clint's a fan of the Ford Field podcast. You know,
Oh, he's got to be.
No, he
Gotta
better.
be.
He better.
I mean, he's got to respect the fact that Wes's profile picture right now is
Literally.
Clint
the king.
Boyer.
Hey,
And it
it's
might
all
never
right.
change. It might
Next
never
season.
change.
Next season, if the trends are like how they say it is, shoot, Boyer will have all the time in the world to watch our podcast. 'cause it'll
Whoa!
be-
We are not talking about that yet. That's later on in this episode. We gotta slow our roll here. We gotta talk about New Hampshire first. But yeah, so you know, outside of that, the racing was pretty good. You know, Keselowski was happy that we had the fans there, and there's about 12,000 people, well spaced out, and people were wearing their masks pretty much the whole time until they got to their seats. And you know, it did rain before the race, but it didn't do anything to halt the track, halt anything. But it was pretty nice. It was actually pretty cool, not sunny, so it wasn't like sweating. I know at the All-Star race we were sweating
Oh
pretty
my
good.
goodness.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
Sweating bullets at the All-Star race.
Yeah, we were
yeah.
struggling.
Just felt it down the back, and just
Oh man.
you know,
What?
I just thank God I lost my weight before that, because that would have been a struggle.
Oh,
if
if
I
he's been
was
sitting
when I
there.
was.
Oh
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
But
Dude, I was over in 4 for the Open,
mhm.
and nah, that was not it. There's no shade. The sun's shining.
That's the
right
one thing
in
we
my
Right
did
in the
have. We
sun.
did have the shade. We did have the shade in 2 because we were under basically like where the suites were in turn 2. I think Samantha Bush was in the suite right above us, because if I looked at her Instagram story, and like the picture came from like up there too. So, you know, I'd say the All-Star race was a more enjoyable experience, but going to a race is just going to a race at this point. You can't really judge it because there's not much to do. That's what usually like makes a race as a fan, is everything outside the track to do before the race. And
For sure.
obviously with everything going on, they didn't have any of that really set up. So, you know, we'll talk about the race. I think the beginning of the race provided the best racing when it was Keselowski, Blaney, and Hamlin. Keselowski was on older tires. Hamlin and Blaney were both like nudging each other out of the way, trying to be the one to get by Keselowski. But Keselowski was doing so good at holding them off that it was really annoying Blaney and Hamlin. They were like, oh, man, you know, I should have moved them. I should have moved them every time they got moved by the other guy. So Blaney would hit Hamlin out of the way, and then Hamlin would come back the next lap, hit Blaney out of the way, and then Hamlin finally got ahead of Keselowski, won the first stage. But then the second stage ended with a 2-lap restart, and that was really fun to watch. Keselowski and Hamlin go at it, and seeing Hamlin, or not Hamlin, but Keselowski win the stage, that was pretty fun. Now, the last stage, got your long green flag run that you always expect. But, Wes, story of Matt Kenseth's season. What happened to Matt?
Same old.
Just multiple issues. Poor guy could not catch a break. First, I guess he spun on his own and then had 2 flat tires. And then Matt at that point was just, you could tell in his voice, he was just done. He didn't even want to, I don't think he wanted to stay at the racetrack. I don't know how many tires he's blown this year, but it's got to be like 8 or 9, which I don't know if any of that is his own doing or
Yeah,
it's
but
just
say, I
absolute
feel like
terrible luck.
at that point it's like it might be something he's doing then if he's done it so much. He's done it more than like anybody else. So like, I mean, yeah,
Right.
the tires are bad. At least they're not where they should be. But still, like he's blown way
Yeah.
more tires than like anybody else.
Well, at the beginning of the race, Kyle Busch hit the wall in lap 16, ended his day. He finished last. Adam Stevens was not happy with Goodyear. He wanted a Goodyear representative to be sent to their garage stall, like right after the wreck, because Kyle barely kissing it is an over-exaggeration with the wall, and the tire went down, which
So
is
it's
a
gotta
problem
be-
with these bodies and the tires, because in the Xfinity Series, you could hit the wall pretty good and still be okay. But in
Right.
a Cup car, you even glance at the wall and you've got damage and it cuts your tire down.
And I don't think it's helped Kenseth at all not having any practice. So it's kind of hard to tell if it's been like some kind of recurring. Well, it's been a recurring issue for him, but it's hard to tell whether some of that is driver inflicted, or if it's just been a big thing of with the tires this year, because we saw it at New Hampshire, of course, this last weekend, and then we saw it at Indy really bad with Hamlin and a slew of other drivers. So I feel like it could be a combination of just Kenseth not having any practice, along with the fact that these tires just don't seem to be holding up at certain tracks, just with the bodies as well, kind of making an impact when just a little bit of contact ends up resulting in a flat tire. So poor guy, Kenseth, we're going to have to see if he can do anything the rest of the year, because this might be it for him. Did get a good top 5 at Indy. Of course, didn't blow a tire at the one track people were blowing tires.
But exactly, yeah. The one where about was blowing, he didn't blow anything. So
who knows? But he better hopefully have a good rest of the season. We'll find out.
Now, other than that, we saw some other issues. Saw John Hunter Nemechek blow a tire. I actually called that. I wouldn't say I called it. I didn't say he was going to blow a tire. But before the race, I said John Hunter Nemechek was either going to wreck somebody or be a wreck. And he ended up being a wreck. Just John Hunter has got speed. He's just kind of – the rookie really shows in him. Kind of wrecks it a lot. Kind of gets over-aggressive. Tries to get more out of the car than the car has. I think that might be also a case with Christopher Bell right now. But Bell's luck awful too. Bell cut 2 tires when he was running up in 6th. So we'll talk about Bell a little bit later too. But Bell's luck has not been too kind to him. Then at the end of the race, Keselowski just managed to have a better long-run car, went on to win the race, and got his 3rd win of the season. But I think this was a big race for Keselowski because in his first 2 wins, he kind of stole them. Kind of stole the first 2 wins. Bristol, Chase Elliott, Logano, had their incident. Somehow there was no caution for it. And Keselowski snuck through and won. And then Keselowski won on a green-white checkered by staying out at the Coke 600. So this is kind of a big race for Keselowski to prove that maybe he's the 3rd guy in the big 3 this year, because it's just kind of been Hamlin and Harvick. It hasn't been that 3rd driver to really stand out. Could be Keselowski. Now, Caden, do you think with this being a flat track and the championship race being a flat track at Phoenix, do you think this race has any importance or significance to maybe tell who could be fast in the championship race?
Not really. I think they're 2 completely different tracks, honestly. I don't think this has any show of who's going to be up there top 4.
Because it's interesting because when you get to that championship 4 bubble, it seems like all the 4 guys usually hit it to where they're a top 5 car because they do so much testing, especially if you win that first race in the round. Then you're already just prepping your car for, not Homestead, but Phoenix this year. So you just running a ton of tests. You're trying to fix every single thing with that car for 3 weeks. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I mean, look at – was it last year? It was Truex that had the 3 weeks, and maybe they did have the car to do it. The team messed up, did something that, you never see ever, putting the tires on the wrong side of the car. Jeff Gordon back in 2015 had to, 2-3 weeks to prep that car. Wasn't the fast car, but then again, the Hendrick package, Hendrick that year wasn't fast at the 1.5 miles anyway. So, honestly, I don't even see the advantage of having the time to prep the car, especially this year since there's no practice. It's whatever you come with is going to be what your car is in the championship, which is crazy because could you imagine Hamlin and Harvick just completely miss it at Phoenix? Just miss it. The one race, they just miss it, and they're just non-factors for the championship, and it's the 2 other guys going at it. I feel like the flat track, it could affect it. It could not. I don't know. It's the summer also versus November. So a lot of factors go into it. And then the racing at Phoenix is probably going to be more aggressive, more chances to wreck. But Kyle Busch still hasn't won anything this year in the Cup Series. How much are you panicking if you're Kyle Busch in that 18 team?
I think at this point, I think you're probably hitting the panic button now because, granted, the tires weren't the best, but, at the same time, it's just frustrating if you're a fan of that 18 team because you're not used to even barely having any stage points as it is and struggling this much, and you'd think that he kicking in at this time and he's not, and so I don't know. I'm not sure what the deal is over there. Obviously, bad luck is bad luck. It's going to happen, but before this, like up to this point, there's still a lot of just driver error on his part. I shouldn't even say error, but just more just he just hasn't been as strong. So I don't know if it's more of a team thing, a car thing, or just maybe it's just Kyle's in maybe he's just inside his head too much. But something's got to change, and it's got to change fast.
Yeah, no, Kyle Busch definitely. He's pretty much locked into the playoffs. He's 94 points in, so I don't see him being that much of a collapse in the next 6-7 races where they fall out of the playoffs or even come close. But a couple more incidents because a couple of tracks here, Michigan, Kyle Busch hasn't been really that good at in the past, even when he does dominate. And Kyle Busch at the Daytona Road Course, anything can happen there.
Exactly,
and then Daytona to end the regular season, anything can happen there. And Kyle Busch at Dover isn't. You don't think of Kyle Busch to dominate Dover, so the track's coming up for Kyle Busch, or if
they're not good. Yeah, they're not. They're not good, and they definitely to not collapse here. They just got to find a way to run mid-pack, maybe grab some stage points here and there, and just basically just make it to the end of the race. Just don't wreck the car, and just find a way to kind of tread water here, and then you can kind of reset if you make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. And right now, they need playoff points, and these tracks aren't good opportunities for him to pick up those playoff points. Could you imagine Kyle Busch going to the playoffs with one playoff point?
That would be, oh my God. I could not imagine that. That would definitely be very unlike Kyle Busch.
Just imagine Kyle Busch going into the playoffs with one playoff point, and then say at Darlington he scrapes the wall, cuts a tire, ends his race, finishes 38th.
He's done. That's it.
That puts Kyle Busch almost in a must-win situation in the first round of the playoffs.
Exactly. If you were to tell me at the beginning of this season that there's gonna be one driver with one playoff point, possibly one playoff point entering it, I would not think it'd be Kyle Busch.
I'd say Kurt. I'd say Kurt Busch have a chance at it, but not Kyle.
Yeah, I'd say more of Kurt, or just someone that has their strong moments but isn't that complete driver. They have their good times and they have their bad times, but I would not expect Kyle Busch to have possibly only one playoff point going into the postseason. So,
when was the last time Kurt Busch was ahead of Kyle Busch in the points this late into the season?
Probably when Kyle was in the 5 car. Honestly, that was probably the last time.
It had to be maybe like in 05, 06.
09.
09.
09.
Yes.
Kyle, that Gibbs was not good in 09. So that's about it. I mean, this is insane.
2009, there was – I don't know about 2013. The 78 was quick in 2013.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think they had Cole Pern. Yeah, Cole Pern there.
He wasn't the crew chief. He was an engineer.
Yeah. And I think Cole Pern leaving Martin Truex is still a big loss. I think Truex would have a couple more wins if they had Cole Pern still, even though they still stay in contact with them. But James Smalley would said they don't talk racing all that much. They just kind of talk about their personal lives when they're on the phone. So it's interesting because we need that fourth. You could almost say, all right, we got Hamlin, Harvick, Keselowski is like a big 3, but you need that fourth driver to fill in, in the championship 4. Could that be a Truex, a Blaney, a Logano, maybe some guy that's been consistent like Almirola, Matt Benedetto? Or is it one of these guys in the back going to make a late charge like a Jimmy Johnson, William Byron, Eric Jones, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch? So it's interesting. It's early to tell, and the playoffs just get all whacked up anyway. Everything you wouldn't imagine will happen in the playoffs, especially with the one round, including I think it's the Charlotte Roval, Vegas, and Talladega.
Oh, God.
So if you want a round that'll take Denny Hamlin out, there it is. Take Denny Hamlin right out. And honestly, could take Harvick out. Harvick isn't that good at – well, he's good at road courses, but he doesn't have that advantage like he has at other tracks. So Well, speaking of some of those drivers I mentioned, it brings up some silly season news. It was announced that Eric Jones will no longer be with Joe Gibbs Racing at the end of 2020.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows? Only time. And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows? Only time. We gotta
Very disappointing end for Eric Jones at his time because I feel like they didn't give him enough to really succeed or at least try something new. Like with Hamlin, they gave him a new crew chief. I feel like Eric Jones maybe needed a new crew chief to just see if it's the driver, the car, or the crew chief, and they just kind of got rid of Eric Jones. It was a tough position because they had Christopher Bell sitting there. So Christopher Bell's going to go to the 20. And Jason Ratcliffe will most likely move with him to the 20 car. Just didn't seem like Chris Gale and Eric Jones was the right duo. And now Eric Jones is sitting there looking for a job next year. And we'll start with some predictions for Eric Jones. Wes, right now as it looks, where do you possibly see Eric Jones in 2021?
Well, I'm hoping to change whatever it's going to be if will benefit him to some degree, because I feel like just something with the 20 car, it just seemed like he was cursed. Nothing worked out. And granted, there were a few mistakes that he made every now and then. He's had a couple this year, but I feel like a lot of it didn't have to do any with the driver. I feel like he's the unluckiest driver in NASCAR. It seems like it's always something mechanical or getting caught up in a wreck that's not of his own doing. That's kind of screwed him out of the ride, along with the lack of sponsorship. But I feel like he's going to have some options. I feel like one of the bigger ones right now, Coach Ball actually with Hendrick, he's got the 48 car to look into. But the question there is going to come again down to sponsorship, whether he can get a ride like that or not, especially with the number of people, not only in Cup, but in the Xfinity Series that are probably going to be looking at that 48 car. It just kind of depends on the sponsorship and Rick Hendrick, kind of what he's eyeing when it comes to talent. Whether he wants somebody new or if he wants somebody like Eric Jones that's had bad luck to come in and prove all the doubters wrong. I think that's an option, and I also think that he honestly might end up there. There could be Chip Ganassi calling. There could be the 42 car with Kenseth probably retiring at the end of the year or retiring again. That's going to be another car that he could look into. It'd be a new manufacturer, but I feel like that 42 car, depending on, again, who people are looking at, will definitely be a good opportunity for a guy that has some experience in Cup coming in and taking a ride, along with pairing against Kurt Busch, who's probably going to retire at the end of next year. Working with a good veteran like that, I feel like that'd be a good duo to have for a team, especially having one guy younger and one guy older. So that could be an option as well.
I could definitely see that if Eric Jones were to go to Ganassi and it'd be him and Kurt as the duo, it would definitely help Eric Jones because I think he would get more focus on him, more because there's only two guys as compared to four guys. I feel like right now Gibbs' main focus is on the 11, 18, and 19. Not saying they don't pay attention or focus or put any effort into the 20, but they want to put their efforts into a championship contending team. And right now that 11 and the 19 and the 18 are going to be in the playoffs. And Eric Jones sitting 30 points out. I think Jones could have a Logano, moment in his career where that switch just ignites something and he goes off. Hendrick is a good idea. I tweeted it earlier. I think Hendrick would be very smart to look at him and bring him in as the fourth driver because people say, oh, well, they're too young. They're too young. They need a veteran presence. Listen, Chase Elliott's going into his sixth season next season. I think he's got enough experience to be the leader at Hendrick Motorsports. right now. He was the guy tapped to take over Jeff Gordon's role, and Jeff Gordon was the leader there for many years. I think it's Chase Elliott's time to step up, be a leader. Got the most wins on the team outside of Jimmy Johnson. Chase Elliott's the fastest guy at Hendrick Motorsports right now. If you get him, William Byron's entering his third season, or fourth season already, insane to think about. And then you've got Alex Bowman. Bowman, he'll be there for a few more years. We'll see how long he stays in that 88. But they're not as young as people think. They've got experience in the Cup Series. They don't need a guy like, they were talking about Keselowski. They don't need someone like that to come in. I think if you bring Eric Jones in, honestly, a bunch of younger guys could just help each other because they're going to be more motivated to beat each other. I think that's what helped Joe Gibbs Racing last year. Every Joe Gibbs driver was so competitive, they just wanted to beat each other, and they were just running better and better every week. Hamlin wanted to do better than Busch and Truex, and then Kyle Busch wanted to beat Hamlin and Truex, and Truex wanted to beat Hamlin and Busch. It's competition in a team is good. Definitely fuels the drivers to get going, and I think Eric Jones would bring that to Hendrick Motorsports. Now, Caden, there's one guy that no one's really talking about. It's Eric Almirola. Do you think Almirola is fully safe in that 10 car going for next year?
No. I think
Ooh.
Well, I think that, obviously he's been there for a couple years. He's got him, Boyer, Harvick, and Custer. They all have race-winning equipment. I'm not going to say they all have championship-winning equipment. They all have race-winning cars. Both Boyer and Almirola just have not finished the job for what they need to do, if you ask me. Because Almirola had the car at Kentucky. Granted, it was a poorly timed yellow. I still think he could have got that job done at Kentucky. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
If he would have – I think when he gets behind, he probably beats himself up too much in the head, and he doesn't have that extra motivation. Because he's not used to being in that equipment. When he was with RPM for however long, 4 or 5 years, whatever, and he was in the 8 for DEI part-time, sharing that with Mark Martin. I think he never really snapped into that, I have this and I can go out there and go get it from these guys,
Mm-hmm. So do you think the 10 and the 14 will be available this offseason with new drivers next season?
I think they're going to renew one and not the other. I don't know who they're going to renew, but I think it's definitely going to be one, either Almirola or Boyer, and not the other driver.
And do you think that Chase Briscoe is an automatic lockup to get into the car that's open?
No.
And
no.
who do you
I think that Chase, don't get me wrong, he definitely has the experience, talent. It'll depend on the money that he's bringing in, which he obviously is bringing in money because he's able to, win races, get on TV, and do good interviews and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's just a whole complete package because Stewart-Haas, they're not really showing all 4 cars up front every week. And there's always a possibility of downsizing back to 3 cars because that's what they were doing when Danica was there, It's not – they don't need that 4th car, so you never know what could happen. Just always that kind of deal.
Yeah, and I could see it's interesting because people like to put things together and they think everything's a lock. And they think, oh, well, Chase Briscoe's ready. He's winning races, so he's just going to move right up. It doesn't work like that. Christopher Bell won like 8 races in 2018. Then the easy word could have been like, all right, get rid of Denny Hamlin. He's old and didn't win at all. Let's just put Bell in the 11 for 2019. It just doesn't work like that. You can never have enough years in a lower series to get more experience. It's not a rush to get to the Cup Series. Look at Chase Elliott and William Byron. They got to the Cup Series really quick, and it took Chase Elliott 99 races to win. And William Byron's coming up on that number. It's not a rush to get to the Cup Series. I think the more years you do in the Xfinity Series, it's going to help you toward the beginning of your career in the Cup Series. Look at Tyler Reddick. He did multiple
Quinn
years
Houff.
in the Xfinity Series. Oh, God. See, that's the prime example.
Pay to win, or not even win, just pay to drive.
Yeah.
And then pay to wreck. Is basically what he's doing every week.
Because Tyler Reddick did a few years, and it's helping him run better. You know, he's not tearing the thing up. Cole Custer ran many years in the lower series, and he's got a win this year. Christopher Bell, the same deal. He's been running top 10 this year. Just the luck hasn't panned out for him. And Briscoe could be in the Xfinity Series again next year. I'm not saying he won't go to Stewart-Haas Racing in the Cup Series next year, but it's a possibility that he just stays in the Xfinity Series for one more year. Now, Kevin, Bubba Wallace has been getting a lot of news in the rumors of where he might be next year. We've had Richard Petty Motorsports offer him a contract which includes 10 to 20% ownership of the team.
Oh, boy.
So, and it's been said that Bubba is trying to explore his options to try to get in better equipment and the best equipment possible. So, with that being said, where do you realistically see Bubba maybe racing next year?
Oh, boy. I'm not going to lie. That 10 to 20% of ownership, that does sound kind of good, especially when you're working with, the king. He already brings in enough money himself just by his name. But, Bubba's still young, so I feel like, yeah, he definitely – I wouldn't be surprised to see him, actually explore those options. Maybe you could see him in the 42 as well instead of Eric Jones. That's honestly where I'd probably see him most is probably there with Chip Ganassi in the 42. Because I haven't heard of anywhere else, to be honest. I just can't really picture him in that 48 or just anywhere. I can't see him in the 14 or the 10 if Stewart-Haas decides to do something over there. I honestly I see him either staying there with RPM and taking that ownership, or I see him in the 42. But I think the 42, if he were to move, I think the 42 would probably be his best, if not only option.
I think the 42 is a good option. You look at it, Bubba's been bringing in a lot of sponsorship lately, and they share that connected sponsor, the 42 and the 43 with McDonald's. So McDonald's would definitely be on board with having Bubba drive the car. And with the extra sponsorship money that Bubba will bring with him, I think that's going to help Chip Ganassi Racing. And Chip Ganassi Racing is an upgrade from RPM. I think it's what Bubba's best offer is going to be, I think, when it comes to a deal and everything, because Chip Ganassi knows he can get sponsorship from him. And honestly, it'll be a real test to see what Bubba could do in a top-tier car and see what he can actually do. Right now, Kurt Busch is sitting up there well in the playoffs. Matt Kenseth is different. I think, as Wes mentioned earlier, I think no practice has hurt him as he has been out of the sport for a couple years. So I think Bubba, if he gets there, we could really see what he has, behind the wheel, and it could prove what he's got and see if he can contend for some wins next year. Now, Wes, your buddy Clint Bowyer right now doesn't have a contract next year. We've seen things from he stays in the 14 and things where he just ends up not having a ride and he joins Jeff and Mike up in the Fox Sports booth. What do you think is going to happen for Clint Bowyer?
It's going to be tough because we're getting down to the end of the year pretty much. Only a few more months left here in the season. We don't really know what's going to happen with a lot of drivers, but Bowyer especially, because we've heard talks that he wants to return to Stewart-Haas. We've heard people mention that he's got a real thing for commentating in the booth, and he seems to really enjoy it. We've also heard talk from Richard Petty Motorsports saying that there's a big guy that they're looking into. And, of course, Bowyer is one of these guys that's in a contract here, so maybe that's the guy. But we don't really know if Bowyer wants to step away from the sport at all or completely and just kind of consider a new career path or just enjoy retirement for after a pretty good year or a few years in the NASCAR Cup Series. So I think he's got some options. But I think what we might end up seeing from him, I feel like there's a good chance that he's going to step away at the end of the year kind of like what Caden mentioned. I feel like it's going to come down to whether Stewart-Haas, are they really going to let go 2 of their drivers in 1 year? Are they going to try to space it out a little bit and just kind of play with their options? Because that would change the dynamic of a team a lot to lose 2 drivers. And Almirola, his performance has been pretty good. So I feel like if he's able to work out some kind of sponsorship deal with Smithfield, I feel like there's a better chance of him staying with Stewart-Haas than Boyer, a guy that really hasn't brought in as much sponsorship recently. Plus a guy that really hasn't had the performances that we would have expected from a guy like him and a team that's had, like Caden mentioned too, race-winning cars. So I think Boyer might end up stepping away, but I'd like to see him in the booth if that does happen. I feel like he's got a good home for it, and I think that Fox is kind of missing a little something when it comes to commentary. I feel like they need a third person. It's hard to have and fill an audience or a listening audience with just 2 people speaking the entire time, because there's a lot of breaks that it feels like when we watch it on TV that it's not being filled. And I feel like Boyer, a really humorous guy, joining Gordon, a guy that he's been friends with. They've had their run-in, of course, but they've been friends for a long, long time. And Mike Joy, I feel like that would be a good dynamic for that team. So I think that's going to be an option that seems more likely than the others.
Yeah, well, Clint I see him, if he goes to the booth, as like an updated version of DW. You've got the craziness, you've got the personality for the TV.
He's not delusional.
But you've got a guy who's been in the car in the past 20 years, so he knows how the car's handled.
Mm-hmm.
And
when Boyer calms down, he's like a really intellectual guy. He's very articulate when it comes to describing how the car feels and describing the track conditions. So I feel like that would be a really good asset to have, especially in a booth with 2 guys like Jeff Gordon, a really knowledgeable guy, and Mike Joy, a guy that's commentated for a very long time.
Of course, and I think Clint, it's going to be hard for him to stay in the 14. I'm going to say that. And whether he would want to be the 43 because of the lack of performance in that car, that might steer him away. So Fox Sports may be calling him. They'll definitely take him, I think, as a third guy in the booth. And honestly, I could see that. That's where I see Clint Boyer next year. Another guy no one's really talking about is Tyler Reddick. Caden, Tyler Reddick, I've heard things where he goes to the 48, he goes to the 42, or you think he stays in the 8. What do you think Tyler Reddick is in store for?
I think I honestly see him in the 8 again next year. I think they got a good thing going. They keep getting the momentum, and he still has his Xfinity team from last year with 8 guys right now. That's what they are. They switched around the crews. I think they're going to keep that momentum going, and I think they're going to get those cars better and better right now for what they got going. And I think they could probably win a couple races sooner rather than later.
Yeah, if you get Reddick in the playoffs, you get both RCR cars in the playoffs, that definitely helps the organization going into the offseason, knowing that we had 2 guys make the playoffs. We're a good team. You attract more sponsorship, you get more money to help you get better equipment. And maybe RCR returns to the glory days from like 20 years ago, and they're running back up front like where Dale Earnhardt was back in the 80s and 90s. I'm not going that far, but they'll be up there. Tyler Reddick's got a lot of talent. He may be the most talented out of the new guys. Well, when it comes to raw talent, he just needs better equipment. And I think right now, if he makes the playoffs this year, that's a big statement. If he was able to fight in the playoffs as a rookie, I think Hendrick may contact him, may not, but it'll definitely be with a Chevy next year. I think he's under contract with Chevy for a few years, but whether it's with Childress, Hendrick, or Ganassi, we'll have to see. Now, one more guy we got to talk about, Kyle Larson. Does Kyle Larson come back to NASCAR? Does he come back to NASCAR next year? Is he in that 48 car next year? Is he in that 14 next year? Is he in that 10 car next year?
No way. Because Kyle Larson Racing bid on the 95 team.
There's
Is
no
that
way.
true?
No, I think
Yeah.
that's fake. I think
Yeah,
that's fake.
someone
That-
sent her a Discord that was fake. I think it was Bolts.
It came from the Twitter account Adam Slurn. Not Adam
Nah.
Stern, but Adam Slurn. Because why would Kyle Larson Racing want to buy the? They're a
95.
dirt team. Why would they
He's got
even?
money, man. He can do what he wants.
I doubt he would try to buy a charter for the Cup Series from dirt.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if he goes out of NASCAR for not the reason why he's out now, I feel like he would, because I feel like talent alone, I feel like he's definitely a valuable prospect. But when you talk about bringing in money and all that stuff, we all saw how fast the sponsors jumped out when he said what he said. So, and obviously all the stuff going on in the world right now with all the protests and all that stuff going on, I feel like just because of the way he went out, I feel it's gonna be hard for him to get back in. Even though Tony Stewart is a guy that he at the end of the day he's like, hey, if you can race, you can race. I just feel like Tony may want to, but I feel like they just won't get the sponsorship to let him pull the trigger on that, because I feel like no one's gonna want to sponsor a guy that said a racial slur on a live stream. So. If it was talent alone, then I'd say yeah. But just the way he went out, I just feel like he just won't be able to get enough sponsorship to at least be on a big team like Stewart-Haas, which is where I would see him go if he did come back.
So, for Kyle Larson, going to the 14 car just makes way too much sense. It's going to happen. Here's why. One, Kyle Larson was asked, Kyle Larson was talked about with the representative from Ford. They asked, is Kyle Larson coming to race for you? If he raced in a Ford, would that be okay? He said, we're looking at our options. Usually when that's said, that usually means it's being talked about. They've had talks. Kyle Larson and Ford have definitely had talks, and Ford will be represented by Kyle Larson. And Tony Stewart has said many times that he said Kyle Larson is one of the most talented drivers there are. So there'd be no reason for Kyle Larson or Tony Stewart to not get Kyle Larson when he can now. And if you want Chase Briscoe to get up in the Cup Series that bad, and if you get the sponsorship, you got it. You get rid of Almirola and put Chase in the 10 and then Larson in the 14. Larson will get the Stewart-Haas sponsorship right now. He could get the same. I think he can get the same funding that Clint Bowyer is getting right now. So Kyle Larson, the 14, I'm gonna say is almost, if not done, it's almost in ink. Kyle Larson's gonna be in a 14 car next year. I just think it makes too much sense. Tony Stewart's not gonna pass up on an opportunity like that. And could you imagine in like 3 years if Harvick retires after 23 and Rodney Childress moves over to Kyle Larson and Kyle Larson gets that 14? That'd be dangerous. And Kyle Larson could win a championship with that team.
Yeah, I want to see it happen. I like comeback stories. I would like to see Larson, come back and basically pick up where he left off, possibly exceed where he left off or whatever. Because he said what he said and it wasn't good. But after all that happened, I always liked him as he wasn't like my favorite driver or anything, but I liked seeing him up there in the front. I liked seeing him be able to compete in that 42. And yeah, obviously he said what he said and wasn't good on any means whatsoever. But I think the fact that he wasn't really directing it towards anybody in specific, and obviously it wasn't meant to be a malicious attack on anybody. I think that's why a little deep inside me, I want to see him come back. I want to see him succeed because he made a really dumb mistake on a live stream, and there's no excuse for it, but I do want to see him come back. I do like seeing a good comeback story, and I feel like a guy just said something he shouldn't have said, and when we all do stuff like that, but yeah, like how you said, Don, I feel like it makes too much sense. So I want to see it happen though.
And I think he's kind of already on that comeback trail because we've seen what he's been able to accomplish in dirt, competing against some of the best guys in there like Donnie Schatz and Brad Sweet and that whole crowd. He came back and started dominating. So I feel like there's some kind of momentum that's behind Kyle Larson right now. Not even in NASCAR that's going to help him maybe get back into the Cup Series ride and be able to kind of take that step back into contention for being one of the best drivers in the world, because I think he already is. I honestly think he does. I think he's one of the best drivers in the world just based off his talent alone. I feel like you put him behind the wheel of anything, he's going to be one of the top guys competing for a win. So I definitely think there's good expectations for him to maybe come back next year, not only kind of rebuild his reputation, but just show how good of a driver and a talent he really is.
Of course, it's crazy. And even if Rick Hendrick wanted him that bad for that 48 car, Chevy would take back what they, said they don't support him anymore. They'd go back on it. They'll do whatever Rick wants. So if Rick Hendrick wants Kyle Larson, Chevy's gonna be like, all right, yeah, we love Kyle Larson.
Yeah, man, Chevy will simp for Rick Hendrick. So
yeah, and Larson said before that NASCAR, he wants to be a NASCAR champion. People like to give him this like stereotype of, oh, he's just in it for the money. If he was in it for the money, he'd just keep doing the dirt race.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, he'd be a long gone. Like he wouldn't keep like, all right, well, I'm at a NASCAR shoot. All right, that's fine. I'll keep, beating everybody on dirt. So
yeah, money's not an option. He likes being a NASCAR and he wants to be a NASCAR champion because that's the top. It's one of the top racing, motorsports in the world. Exactly. People don't talk about World of Outlaw champions, which, that's a great, feat, but people talk about NASCAR Cup Series champions before they mention World of Outlaw champions. So to be a NASCAR champion and then move on to World of Outlaws and then win that championship, that's what Kyle Larson wants to do. He doesn't want to just be out of NASCAR forever. He wants to get back. He's going to get back. And in a few years, he might have a chance at a championship in the Cup Series. So fans like to make assumptions. They like to just say, oh, he's in it for the money. He doesn't care. But he obviously cares. He did the program. He did the Road to Recovery program. He just hasn't been reinstated because there's no reason to get it yet, because he's not going to get a ride right now. Just going to wait till the end of the year. And once the offseason comes around, he'll get reinstated. I'm sure it'll all happen in one, in the matter of like a day or a week.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be like Kyle Larson gets reinstated, and then the next day, Kyle Larson signed by Star Haas Racing. So that's how it's going to go down. Now, looking into the future, we're just going to jump into this week. Doubleheader at Michigan.
Yes.
That means we get to make 2 picks each. Kevin's home track.
Yes, sir.
Also the home tracks of not Kyle Larson, I would say Kyle Larson. But Brad Keselowski and Eric Jones.
Eric Jones, the 2 Michigan
Hopefully
boys.
Eric Jones can pull a Casey Kane from 2017. It was Casey Kane being told he was getting replaced by William Byron in the 5 car. And then he went on to win the Brickyard 400. Can Eric Jones do that and maybe steal a win this week at Michigan? Wes, since you haven't made a pick in a few weeks, you get to lead us off. Who's winning Saturday? Who's winning Sunday?
Oh, man, got to get back into it. Well, I guess I'd pick Larson and Paul Menard if they were options, but don't really have either to choose from. So I'm going to go with my first pick. I'm going to go with the guy that's won here 3 times, the most slept-on driver, the guy that's hanging on Caden's wall, Kurt Busch, driver number 1, Monster Energy. He's been so consistent this year. And I feel like he's due for a win. And this is a track that he's had really good success at before. And I've got a lot of faith in him. He's doing so good. If this wasn't the Cup Series, I mean, hypothetically, he'd be 4th in the Winston Cup Series points.
Yeah.
He's been one of the most consistent drivers of the year. So I think he's going to be able to go out there and get a good run here at Michigan. So he's my pick for the first race. My second race, I'm going to go with a guy that it has been his kryptonite for a while. No, it's not Jimmy Johnson. It's Brad Keselowski. He's never won here, but he's been a dominant force in a lot of different Michigan races. I think Keselowski is going to be able to take the momentum that he used in New Hampshire and continue it, and for the first time in years, get a 4th win in a season. I feel like we haven't seen that in, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years from Keselowski. Yeah. He wins 3 races every year, but I think that he's shown really good speed this year. He hasn't had a finish worse than 20th since the Daytona 500. I don't think he's finished outside of the 20th position since the Daytona 500. So I think Keselowski's going to go out there and get a victory.
All right, so I'm up next since Christopher Bell blew a couple tires last week. First race, I feel like Harvick and the 4 team are going to come back out fighting strong. They're always good at Michigan. And that's one of those tracks where they seem to trim their car out more, have more of that straightaway speed. Saw it at Indy. So I think that's going to get it. Once he gets out front, there's no passing the 4 car. So I think Kevin Harvick gets his 5th win of the year, ties Denny Hamlin. And then Sunday, I'm going to go Martin Truex. Martin Truex Jr. needs another win this year. He's only got 1, and that was in Martinsville. It seems like forever ago for Truex. Truex is a little off this year compared to the past few years, but I think Truex will get a 2nd win this season on Sunday. Now, Steve couldn't join us tonight. He's been working a lot. He's got the same excuse as Wes has had.
He's not
So-
dead, though. Don't worry.
Steve is all right.
We don't know. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But Steve is picking Joey Logano for Saturday and Ryan Blaney for Sunday.
Oh, my God. That was literally my picks. Oh, my God.
Well, I
Kevin
guess you'll have to switch them, Kevin.
Well, Kevin, you got some time to think while Caden goes now.
I think it was Saturday. I think the 11 will unload fast and probably win on Saturday. They tend to do that. So on Sunday, I don't know. It's a NASCAR race. It might rain, you know.
Honestly, I got probably check right
Hey.
now if it's going to rain in
Hey.
Michigan. I can probably check on that and check that right now.
Yeah, check that real quick.
Unfortunately, I cannot let you pick Mother Nature to
The
win
rain.
Sunday.
No,
Chris
man.
Buescher will win because of fog in Michigan.
Right?
Let's see. Was that Sunday you said?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be 87 degrees, so we should be clean and green on Sunday.
Austin's trying to FaceTime me there. Yo,
He
Oh
is not
my
stopping. He is not stopping.
He just joined the FaceTime while we were playing. What the?
We got Hamlin for Saturday, and now Caden is having
It-
technical
and we got-
difficulties
I
with
ain't having
somebody.
technical difficulties. I'm having a dumbass FaceTiming me.
Only on the Ford Fuel podcast, folks.
And he is in and out, so it looks like Mother Nature will win on Sunday.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week.
Nah, I think Hamlin went on Saturday, and trying to think. Wild card pick. Go Newman on Sunday. Why not? You know?
Newman!
Why not? Newman.
Ryan
Yeah,
Newman.
Ryan Newman's going to get his first win after a horrible accident at Daytona.
Newman has been picked once on this podcast. That was me at Talladega. It didn't work out. But, hey, Newman, hey, this is Ford's home race. Newman's
Hey.
got to do it.
Mhm.
So, Kevin.
All right, well, since Steve was a freaking dong and took both of my guys or whatever, shoot. All right, well, first race, you know what? I just have this odd feeling. I feel like if there's gonna be any track that this guy would have a pretty good chance at kind of sneaking a win, I feel like it'd be the 24. I don't know why, but right now I feel like Byron is just bound to get a win here. Like he's been getting better as the season has gone along, and I feel like I just have an odd feeling that he is gonna get it at Michigan. Because obviously you saw with Junior when he had his drought, he ended up winning at Michigan to end his drought. And I feel like Byron is gonna do something similar. I feel like he's just gonna be in the right place at the right time. And
Isn't there a Byron, Michigan? I feel like that's a town.
Mhm.
Byron,
Yeah,
Michigan.
mhm.
Is it?
Yeah, there is.
Isn't Eric Jones from Byron, Michigan?
he might be.
I feel like Eric Jones is from Byron, Michigan.
I know Brad is
Sure.
from either Rochester Hills or Bloomfield Hills, which are like
Yeah, Eric
just
Jones on
Byron,
Racing Reference.
Michigan.
Byron,
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah, because Brad is from either Rochester or Bloomfield. I think he's from
I
Rochester,
think it's
which is like
Rochester. Sounds
which is like
right.
which is literally like 30 minutes. Actually, no, probably like 20 minutes away from me. They're actually one of our
Mhm.
rivals. Oh, they were one of our rivals in high school, whatever. So
Yep.
yeah.
Rochester
So
Hills.
well, yeah. Speaking of Eric Jones, shoot. Since Don's been saying it the whole podcast, can he pull Casey Kane? picking Eric Jones for Sunday. Yeah, that probably means
Man,
that
now
he
he's
won't
not
win.
gonna win.
Yeah, he's not gonna win. Yep. Picked Hamlin last week and he got second. And it seems like everybody I picked, they just can't win. I'm still a fat goose egg. But
Kevin may if we did points with picks like where the driver finishes, I'm sure Kevin probably leads
yeah.
points. He picks
yeah,
the guy
point-
that
yeah.
finishes top
oh
five.
yeah, points
Just
that'd be
can't win.
yeah. Point it'd be it'd be like how I am for leagues or whatever on NASCAR Heat. Just consistent, can't get the win, but hey, points wise, we show up every week and we pull out of there. But yeah, Byron first and then Jones Sunday. Those are my two picks.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for this week. We almost did. I think we did an hour again this week.
Yeah, that was a long
Again,
one.
they're so good that we're just
Yeah,
sitting
the
here
last
and
the last two have been good. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
last two chemistry has flowed well. We've had some good topics to talk about. So
Talked a lot about the silly season this week. Of course, Brandon was the one that was like, he was egging the idea
And now he's on a
for
boat.
weeks, and now he's on a boat,
yeah,
and so he couldn't even be here for it. He won't be back till like September. Man, we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do. We got so many members of the Ford
Let's
Field
say we're gonna have
podcast.
six-
If everybody's
we're gonna have six
available at the
guys.
same time, I don't think anybody's gonna have time to talk.
yeah. Maybe
have to
Wes will
make-
die again.
We'll have to make it a
Son.
game show or something. You gotta like earn
Hope
your way
not.
to talk.
Maybe Wes will end up just dying again, and then we'll
What-
do another
what-
tribute to him.
Oh boy. We'll hope not.
Well, that's all we got for today, episode 15. Hopefully everyone's back for episode 16. We'll see what comes up. We didn't even talk about the choose cone rule, but we'll talk about the after effects of it.
Yeah, after
'cause it'll be
effects of it,
happening in
yep.
Michigan. We'll talk about it next week. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we will see you next week for episode 16 of the 4 and Fuel podcast.